paper because I asked them who thought with their knowledge and are going to help us in Oklahoma make a difference. And I want to thank the Executive Director of Nebraska, Precious McKesson. Former Chair of Ohio and author, David Pepper. Chair of the Kentucky Democratic Party, Coleman Eldridge. And Dr. Sheila Chamberlain. I'm going to do that about the introductions. I want to make sure I get everybody. I want to introduce someone who stands up for me whenever I ask them. I call and say, hey, I need somebody to speak up for me. I need somebody to count votes for me in Norman. I need somebody to make me sound good. I just want to introduce former Senator, Cal Hobson. The man who would have saved us from sin. Drew Edmondson. Vice Chair Eric Proctor. We're going to get on with this program. We're going to be running a slideshow of our sponsors and folks who contributed to make this night happen. So we're going to a little bit, but please see them. I want to do a special shout out to the staff of the ODP. They're small but mighty. They made this happen. Our Executive Director, Scott Hamilton. Woo! Our Convention Coordinator, Lauren Gray. Our Director of Communication, Angela Allman. Director of Outreach, David Roberts. And not here is Tristan Watkins. Ready? Take it away, Eric.
Good evening, Democrats. Welcome to Tulsa. We're having a good time. We're looking forward to a wonderful weekend together. Please finish your food because Governor Walters is going to make a donation. And for every empty plate, we're going to defeat fascism. We appreciate that. Seriously, thank you for being here. Every time that you step up, every time that you find, whether it's at the farthest eastern corner or farthest western corner of the state, it's important that we're collectively fighting, not with each other, but fighting together to defeat fascism in Oklahoma and make sure the rest of the state and the rest of the country knows that we're not all like our crazies in Oklahoma City and on the other side of the aisle. And some of us believe in education, some of us believe in funding health care, some of us believe in creating a better life for our kids and our families. And because of what you do every single day and every single election cycle, those people have voices. So thank you. If you haven't already, please start your meals, and we're looking forward to a wonderful weekend together.
My husband accuses me of switching them out. I said, no, this is mine.
Hey. Don't.
Is that how many? Is that 11 or banana?
You guys find me in a fight with the bear. Don't help the bear, okay?
I think it's going to be a funny conversation if we hear more.
Oh, gosh, dear.
I just texted them and said, we can hear you.
So there was a joke one time with the mayor at the bar.
It's,
They must have got my text.
You know, I was just thinking I would love to see. I'm waiting to see 2024. I want to see like more Beto style politicians.
Beta style.
Yeah, I want to see them like going and talking to people in small towns, in rural areas, even places that don't have a huge Democratic presence. I want to see them going there and sitting down with the people and asking them what they want. Like that to me is what made his campaign so amazing and what made him such a household name.
Oh, I agree. And he was so impassioned. The way that he took control of a room just with his style was incredible.
Agreed. Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that's like why he I mean, people talk about how he lost, but for Texas, he lost by a pretty close margin. But even either way, like he showed up, and he showed up with such. I mean, you can. I don't know Beto personally clearly, but like there are people that you can see who do it for the politics, and there are people you can see who do it for the heart. And I feel like he clearly does it for that.
I have an entirely different question that's mostly completely off topic. Here's my question. Am I going to get in trouble now for going 135 miles an hour in the Panhandle? I mean, to be fair, I was passed by 5 Lamborghinis. So they were going faster than me. I made you laugh.
Yes.
It's also true.
I kind of want your life to be made into a movie, Simone. Just saying.
I'd buy tickets.
It'd be like Forrest Gump, like Simone style. Like it'd be like.
Did you just compare me to Forrest Gump? Oh my God.
Like, the amount of things that you've said, like the stories that you've told, like I would imagine you like in the Vietnam War, like stopping it, and then like going to like, the March on Washington, like being a speaker, and then going.
all right, I'm going to test the microphone one more time. It appears that my little microphone became disconnected, so I'm reconnecting it now, and I'm having to turn the volume down on it all the way because it does have the conversations you guys are having, and I don't want that to interfere up here, so I'm turning the volume all the way down. But if you would, please put a comment down in the bottom section down there so that I can get some feedback, how this is coming across, make sure that everything is working properly. So if you'll just give me a thumbs up or give me some comments, make sure that everything is working properly. I know that we're still waiting on dinner, so that we might be, a bit late, guys, to be able to go and state activities and events an upcoming event. And so please continue and bear with us as we continue with our evening at the Oklahoma Democratic Convention. It's an exciting time for us, so please bear with us.
I'm assuming he did not want us to have a conversation about Forrest Gump, Simone style.
Sorry, but like if I'm gonna sit here and like wait an hour and 30 minutes for like to listen to this dude like eat dinner, like I will for an hour and 30 minutes, but I'm gonna have a fucking good time while I do it.
Well, ask my dad. I can say that was not a scolding. So
yeah, I know it did. Yeah, I know it's fine. It sounds like sorry. Like Simone, for those of you who don't know all of us, we're all friends. And like Simone is to me like the hippie woman who's like been through a ton of shit. So, but we can talk about what's going on in our various states, and yeah, because I think that's actually worth it.
Danny? Jenny would like a piece of chocolate.
Like to fill your box of chocolates. Simone, what's going on in Virginia?
What's going on in Virginia? Like, Virginia is like pretty quiet at the moment. Like, Youngkin is being like held down a little bit, I think, because there's a lot of Democrats like holding them in balance. So like Virginia hasn't done anything super dramatic. Like I don't know if any of you can even hear me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds like the devil is talking in the background. Like honestly, this is the soundtrack to like some horror movie.
Yeah, so maybe we should like ask him to mute it.
I tried to mute it. I couldn't mute it, but let me see if I can keep working on it. I may mute everybody in the process.
You're able to mute everybody but the host.
Well,
There we
that's
go.
dumb. Why would he co-host and I'm not able to mute him? That's counterproductive.
So I actually would like to talk about Ohio for a second.
Oh, shit. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Ohio. Let's talk about your space coming up.
Yeah. So I'll give a Coffee with Democrats exclusive. So June 14th, Wednesday at 8 a.m. I will be having David on for the hour. We'll be talking about his new book, about Ohio, about the Republicans and the hard right trying to change the Constitution and try to subvert the people's will, so that way we don't have to give women the right to choose what they want to do with their own bodies, and talk about the nation, what's going on. And yeah, so there's so much to talk about, so much to pick his brain about. Really excited, nervous too as well, but really excited. I heard he's a really nice guy, really nice to talk to. Not sure if you've met him, Sam, but I know your dad has.
I've not had the privilege yet, but I will likely listen into yours so I can get to know him more.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it, Sam.
I'm definitely going to be listening in. I'm a huge fan of David Peppers, but you guys are going through, when we're talking about the abortion law bans that they have right now, you guys are going through something pretty big.
Yeah. Instead of it being just a simple majority, 51% of the vote, the Republicans are trying to change the Constitution, and so we need a supermajority of the vote, 60%. So they're trying. We're having a special election, August 8th, for the people to vote on whether or not to have this constitutional amendment on the ballot. And it's really dangerous, having this and changing the Constitution, every state's Constitution, just because they don't like what someone's referendum process. It's just a very slippery slope as they're chipping away at our democracy.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
though. It's definitely chipping away at democracy because it is changing this conversation and it's making it harder for everyday people to bring up issues on the ballot.
Exactly. They keep. Yeah.
So David asked me to read it in my introduction to him, so here we go. David became the committee man about 6 months before my election. And I met him when I decided to run. And I didn't know that much about him, and probably I should have because I was a Democrat. But what I have learned in the last 4.5 years about David Walsh is this. He is committed to the Oklahoma Democratic Party. He is likely one of our most prolific fundraisers, which I know most of you are aware of. The huge campaign that you saw in this last governor's race was spearheaded by folks that were working with David Walters. He was not the head of them, but folks who were working with David Walters and folks who were influenced by David Walters. David has opened his home for many a fundraiser. He has traveled to the DNC to make sure that Oklahoma is being represented. And quite frankly, there have been very few positive things that come out of our governor's office since David left. Please welcome Governor David Walters to the stage.
Thank you, Lisa. Great. The lights are bright. I think I've got a standing ovation from Beto O'Rourke. My night is made. Thank you. I know it's hard to do that with a mouthful of chicken, but enjoy your nonetheless. So one of the things about introducing somebody who's nationally well known, a national figure, a very influential and inspirational national figure, is that you already know about him. And there's a wonderful write-up about his background in the program, and I would commend that to you because I'm not going to dwell on that much. For those of you who don't want to read that program, you certainly know that he was in Congress for 6 years. He ran inspiring campaigns against Ted Cruz and last year against Greg Abbott. And we were all praying for that one, but it wasn't to be. Beto O'Rourke raised $80 million in that campaign. And he still got outspent 2-1. Was it 2-1 or 3-1? 2-1. So we're just so delighted to have him here. I want to just take a moment to tell you a story, though, that 4 years ago, yesterday, Beto O'Rourke came to Oklahoma City when he was running for president of the United States, and he had an event in Oklahoma City. And while he was there, he asked if I would ride with him to Tulsa and to join with Commissioner Karen Keith to tour flood damaged homes, because it was one of those times where the flood came out of the bank one more time, and those West Tulsa homes were just a mess. And I did that, and I jumped in the car, and he said, "Well, I'm driving," and he said, "You ride shotgun." The staff got in the back seat, and I was a little discombobulated by that, and I said, "So why are you driving? Isn't that like a liability or something?" He said, "No, I just like to drive." And then I noticed the center console was full of healthy treats. And so obviously he drives all the time and snacks and gets ready for the next event. But that afternoon, that drive, I had the privilege of being with somebody for an hour or 2 hours of just the two of us talking about all kinds of things. He was so unassuming, he was so thoughtful and uplifting, and we covered all kinds of topics, political and personal. It was a remarkable afternoon when we arrived. It was hot and humid, and there were these terrible 4-foot, 6-foot watermarks in all these homes, and it had just drained out. And so these people were struggling, trying to make sense of what had just happened to them and to get their lives back in order. And to watch Beto walk through those homes, and their politicians will do photo ops, but that's not what this was. he walked through those homes individually, touched and visited, and showed a sense of compassion for each one of them. I remember at one point we were in somebody's driveway. They had hauled their disabled uncle's locker of his World War II mementos out and had opened it up, and his uniform was still in there, and they were trying to preserve that. Beto was helping them a bit there, sat down in a chair and visited with them and asked them questions about their uncle's service. And he thanked them for their uncle's service. He thanked them for the love that they showed him and the work that that family was doing to try to put his life back together. And you could literally see in the eyes of that family and most of the other families that we talked to, you could see the hope and the relief simply well up in their eyes. Beto posted later that day something I'll read to you. He said, "I want to make sure that no matter where you live, we come to listen to you, learn from you, incorporate your story into the campaign we're running and the service I want to provide as President of the United States. We're going to be there for everyone." And I just had the privilege of getting to see it in person. Each and every household, each and every family having an opportunity to tell their story. Someone asked me later that day, how was my day with Beto? And I said, it was what I would imagine it to be, because I never had this privilege, but it was what I would imagine it to be to kind of hang out with Mahatma Gandhi for a day. It was thoughtful, it was uplifting, almost spiritual. When he responded to the gun control question later that year in a debate, in the presidential debate, when he said, "You're damn right I'm coming for your automatic weapons." I'm an old farm boy, I got a lot of weapons, but I stood and cheered because it was such a clear statement of truth over madness. When he walked to the front of the room at the end of the deceptive briefing by Governor Abbott about the Uvalde massacre, and remember that scene where Beto pointed his finger at the raised stage, and he demanded accountability. I stood and cheered. Finally, truth over madness. Please welcome a man, an inspiring leader, and a person that someday I pray we will call president. Meanwhile, you have to call him Congressman Beto O'Rourke.
Please take advantage of this time to go ahead and share this space. We're excited to share this with everybody on our pages.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before I begin, I just hope that you will join me in acknowledging and thanking these extraordinary servers who are bringing the food to our tables, who are working so hard tonight. You all are amazing. Thank you. Our compliments to the chef and the folks who are making our food as well. I just got into Tulsa at 2:00 today. Eric Proctor picked me up at the airport and showing some really amazing Oklahoma hospitality, was waiting for me as I came down the stairs into the area where typically I would call for a cab or an Uber, or hope to find somebody out there on the street. Took me to the Woody Guthrie Museum. Just so powerful. If you haven't seen it, go find the lyrics that he wrote about his landlord, Fred Trump, and what Trump and the Trump family meant to him, and what it means to stand up for the little gal and the little guy in our country and in our communities. And though you lay claim to Woody Guthrie here in Oklahoma, he did live in Nampa, Texas for a while, where he bought his first guitar and wrote some of these American masterpieces. From there, we go over to the Bob Dylan Museum, which is itself just extraordinary. I'm a big Dylan fan. And in the most amazing amazing thing in my time here, the exception being with tonight, and that was to be at the Greenwood Rising Center and Museum. I want to congratulate you and the state and the people of Tulsa, and especially those like Viola Fletcher, 109 years old, who are keeping these stories and this memory and this truth and these facts alive, so that ultimately there will be accountability, there will be justice, and that we can learn from our past. I told the museum director while I was there, I need to come back for a full day just to spend that day in this museum and walking the streets of Greenwood to understand this part of our American history. But everyone that I've had the chance to meet today, whether it was at these museums, whether it was at the dinner tonight, you all have been so incredibly warm and kind. And it's something that I will never forget. And I'm so grateful for the experience. Governor Walters was not me in 2019 when I traveled the state, but he's some after that nomination that ended all to check in on me to see or luck in that contest. He just wanted me to know that he was there for me. And when I knew that I was going to be coming back to Tulsa tonight, I reached back out to him to help get a lay of the land and to understand what is happening here right now. And the information he's given me so far has been absolutely invaluable, not to understand Oklahoma alone, but to understand what we're up against in Texas and throughout the rest of this country. And sometimes we take those who are in our midst for granted. I just want you to know you have an exceptional leader and public servant in Governor Walters and his wife, Rhonda. And I'm just so grateful to have your friendship. So thank you. Speaking of those who've been in high office in this state and have shown the rest of us how to do it, I want to thank Attorney General Edmondson and his wife, Linda, who had a chance to see a little bit earlier. Not only your service as Attorney General of this great state, but the gubernatorial campaign you ran in 2018. Though you did not win, you laid the ground for victories that we will celebrate in the not too distant future. And I want to thank both of you for the great work that you have done for this state. The leader of the Democrats in the House, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, and all the state legislators who are here, the brand new ones, especially, I want to thank you. And I want to thank those who are challenging incumbent Republicans right now in the kinds of places where you are absolutely not supposed to run because everyone tells you that you're not going to win. The work that you're doing right now, even though you may not be able to stop every bad piece of legislation, even though you might not be able to pass everything that your constituents need from you right now, is so important for the fight that we are all in. I want to tell you, you're playing to an audience larger than Oklahoma. Those of us in Texas and throughout much of the country are watching what you are doing right now. I congratulated the minority leader in the Senate for helping to stop this god-awful attack on voting rights that was proposed in this last legislative session that would have stopped federal oversight of our elections so they could keep people from voting in important places like Oklahoma. You all are literally doing the Lord's work right now, and I'm grateful to you as well. But most of all tonight, I want to thank Alicia Andrews, your extraordinary chair of the Oklahoma Independent Department. She is doing a phenomenal job. And when I tell you that the rest of the country is paying attention, it is because of her leadership, her ability to that you're doing here in Oklahoma. So, Chairwoman Andrews, thank you for your service, not just to this state, but to I would like to travel back to Texas, my home, to be with you tonight in Tulsa. I asked her a few questions. I said, tell me what drives you, what motivates you, what this is all about. Certainly we're interested in winning political power. That's a given, right? what motivates us to do the work that we're doing, especially in places where it's not easy, like Oklahoma and Texas. And for her, she said, this fight is for the right to vote, to make sure every single voice is heard and that every vote is counted. And as we say in El Paso, no me importa. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, that you're our fellow American, that you're a citizen. And this right that we've enjoyed in some form or fashion for 249 years and counting. Something that Abraham Lincoln called literally the last best hope of this earth shall not perish in Oklahoma or Texas or any place else if she or I or all of us have anything to do with it. But let me make it clear just how hard the work is that we have before us right now. As you may know, because the former governor just shared this with you, we ran the toughest race we knew how to run in Texas this last year, running for governor against Greg Abbott, a two-term incumbent who spent more than double the $80 million that we raised, used every lever of power at his disposal to make sure that he could hold on to and actually accumulate more power. Now, not only were we running against that extraordinary amount of money that he had, not only were we running against the fact that the Republican Party has won every single gubernatorial election in the state of Texas since 1994. The last time a Democrat won was Ann Richards. Maybe you've heard of her, one of the greatest Democrats ever graced this planet. We were running at a time, get this, maybe you've heard this, but it bears repeating. We were running at a time that the government of the energy capital of the world could not keep the lights on or the power running or the electricity flowing to the people of Texas. In 2021, during a winter storm, 700 people in my home state died. Most of them froze to death. Kids in their beds whose parents could not pile enough blankets atop their shivering bodies woke up dead the next morning. A Vietnam era veteran who had survived that conflict, had survived his exposure to Agent Orange, had survived the sometimes ham-fisted way that the VA at the highest levels delays until they deny the care that somebody has earned and deserves, died in his truck because he couldn't charge his oxygen tank in his house because there was no electricity. A completely preventable disaster squarely at the foot of our current government. But that's not it. We lead the nation in school shootings. Gun violence, the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in our state, more than a year after Uvalde, when 21 people, 19 of them, 9 and 10 and 11-year-olds, lost their lives, so badly disfigured that their parents could not recognize their bodies and had to identify them by the shoes that they were wearing. In that time, not a single change has been made to prevent anyone else from doing anything like what happened to Uvalde to any other child, including the 3 that we're raising in El Paso, Texas. We're the least insured state in America, highest level of diabetes deaths for young kids. The list goes on and on. All of that was on the ballot. And then this, y además. In Texas, it is impossible for a woman to make her own decisions about her own body. We lead the nation in a maternal mortality crisis that is 3 times as deadly for Black women in the state of Texas. And with all of that, we still didn't win. And in fact, I hate to say it, we didn't even get really close. Now, some of that has to be with the baked-in advantage of the Republican Party in Texas. Some of it, as I look to myself, are decisions that the Democratic candidate, Beto O'Rourke, should have made differently or better. Maybe we could have tried harder. I don't know. But back to the chairwoman's point, in a state where it is harder to vote and register to vote than any other in the union, and that describes Texas, and Oklahoma's pretty close to that, where 750 polling places have been closed in the last 10 years. That's twice the number of the next closest state. And most of those polling place closures, no surprise to you, are concentrated in the fastest growing Black and brown neighborhoods in the state of Texas. You have a gerrymander of our congressional districts, which is bad enough on partisan lines alone, but has a racial dynamic, meaning that if you are black or brown in the state of Texas, there's a good chance that you are drawn out of a district where you will make a difference into one where you will have none. And listen, voters aren't stupid. If they realize their voting power has been diminished, if this system is rigged, then why in the hell should I vote? They ask themselves. In a state during the pandemic where there was one ballot drop-off location per county, in a pandemic that killed more than 100,000 of my fellow Texans, one ballot drop-off location per county, including in Harris, which has more people than the state of Nevada, you understand what is going on right now. Those polling place closures, that gerrymandering, those ballot drop-off prescriptions, it helps to explain the lines you see out of our polling places. Outside of Texas Southern University, one of the great historically Black colleges of this extraordinary country, there will be a line on election day every year until we change things that stretches 6 years long. Now, that's not people are hungry to vote, although they are. It's because those polling places in those neighborhoods have been closed down, forcing people to suffer the indignity of waiting 6, 7, or 8 hours to cast their ballot and freely and fairly decide who will represent and serve them in these positions of public trust. Now imagine, for every person who's willing to and able to wait 6, 7, or 8 hours, how many are working too many jobs? Because our minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. So you're not working one minimum wage job, you're working 2 or 3 to make ends meet. How many are taking care of their kids or their folks, or just say, you know what, I don't want to do that in this country. I don't want to be treated that way. I'm just going to give up on voting right now. We're up against the most extreme form of voter suppression and voter intimidation that this country has seen since the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. But as I tell you this, I want to acknowledge something that I spoke about with the chairwoman, and I spoke about with the governor, and I spoke about with some of you tonight as you came up to say hello or to take a picture. There is a very real temptation, and it is understandable, and it is only human nature to despair, to lose hope, to throw in the towel, just like those voters understandably did outside of TSU in Houston, Texas. But let me put this fight that we're in right now in perspective. And I hope in so doing to offer you cause for optimism and maybe some inspiration. But to tell this story right and to give us the perspective we need, I need to go back in time about 100 years. In 1923, 2 years after the Tulsa Race Massacre, in the midst of the murders of Osage members who were killed for their head rights, as the Klan was resurgent here in Oklahoma, and I tell you, in Texas, we led the nation in Klan membership, and literally, Wizard was a dentist in Dallas, Texas. In the state legislature in Texas forbade voting by African Americans. Now, I want to be clear about this. It was not how many are in the jar, or can you recite the state constitution, or take this literacy test. This wasn't a euphemism. In black and white, it said, if you are black, you will not be voting in any election of consequence in the state of Texas. Well, there was a doctor in El Paso, Texas, my hometown, an African-American doctor named Lawrence Nixon, originally from Marshall, Texas, went to another great HBCU known as Wiley, moved to El Paso to practice medicine, started the first chapter of the NAACP in the state of Texas in 1915, voted in every election, worked with the mayor on bond proposals. This issue passes and is signed by the governor in 23, forbidding him to vote. Nonetheless, 1924, next big cycle, he pays his poll tax, goes to fire station number 5 on Texas Avenue, his regular polling place, waits at the back of the line, gets to the front of the line, is recognized by the election judges, because this guy's never missed an election. But they tell him on this visit, Dr. Nixon, you know we can't let you vote. And Nixon responds and he says, I know you can't, but I've got to try. Every single year going forward, he pays that poll tax. Every single year going forward, he goes to fire station number 5 on Texas Avenue, waits in that line, and tries to vote. But that's not all he does. He also files suit and takes that case all the way to the United States Supreme Court and wins not one, but two separate signaled victories in front of that court in 1927 and in 1933. But at every turn, this racist state legislature in Texas changes the law to get past the most recent Supreme Court ruling. So it is not until 1944, in the decision Smith versus Allwright, that elections begin to become reintegrated in the state of Texas. For 21 years, imagine how lonely that fight was. Imagine the family members who say, "Hey, Dad, how long are you going to keep doing this?" Radio stations in El Paso would call him up on election day. And I can't tell from the historical record whether they did this as a joke or they did this to honor him. But Dr. Nixon, are you going to try to vote today? Dr. Nixon would respond on air, "Yes, I am. I'm an American citizen. This is my right. I'm going down to the polling station." 1944, 21 long, lonely years, but for his perseverance, his courage, and his tenacity, and his willingness to turn away despair when it presented himself, he helped us to get to that point. But that's not where he left us. Because 20 years later, another Texan, Lyndon Baines Johnson, in part inspired by Dr. Nixon's work, would use all the available political capital he had after the Kennedy assassination to, in 1964, ensure that the Civil Rights Act was passed and signed in 1965. Dr. Martin Luther King and future Ambassador Andrew Young paid a visit to the president in the Oval Office. And they congratulated him on the passage of the Civil Rights Act, and they asked him to move forward on voting rights. And LBJ is said by Andrew Young to have told Dr. King, "We did everything we could. We burned everything down to get to the Civil Rights Act. You're right on this issue, but I just don't have the power to get it done." Young, King left the Oval Office, and King turned to Young as they were walking out and he said, "You know what? I think we need to go out there and get that president some power." They talked to people like Septima Clark and John Lewis and civil rights and voting rights activists all over this country, and they put the power in their hands. In communities just like this one, in the streets, on the courthouse steps, on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, where in March of that year, John Lewis, 24 years old, Arturo, 24 years old, is beaten within an inch of his life, not for himself, not just for people who look like him, but for all of us, especially those of us alive right now at this moment. So impressed by that display of power and courage, LBJ within 8 days calls a joint session of Congress. And to every single one of those House members and senators, he says, "Look, as it was in Concord, the Revolutionary War, as it was at that courthouse in Appomattox in 1865, so is today. In 1965, in the United States of America, men and women willing to put their lives on the line for this great hope of our democracy. Now you, members of Congress, have the opportunity to come through for them." By that summer, he had signed the Voting Rights Act into law. And forever, we thought, change racial democracy. Side note here to bring in El Paso, the Texas connection. I mentioned Dr. Nixon's work in El Paso. Not only did he inspire LBJ in 64 and 65, but he inspired people who were closer to home. In 1954, Thelma White, who had graduated from the all-Black Douglas High School in El Paso, applied at Texas Western University for enrollment. Because she was Black, her application was denied. She took her suit, following Dr. Nixon's path, right up the courts and forced integration, not just at Texas Western in El Paso, but at every institution of higher education in the state of Texas. 7 years later, in 1962, Burt Williams, a city alderman, is playing softball with a guy named Nolan Richardson, who was your coach here at the University of Tulsa for a little while, one of the greatest athletes the world has ever known. They go to a diner after their softball game, and the waitress won't serve Nolan because Nolan is Black. Burt Williams drops Nolan off at his house, goes to his city council chambers, and writes the first successful desegregation ordinance of a city in the former Confederacy. It passes, it's vetoed by the mayor at that time. The city rallies behind the city council members, and they override that veto. And El Paso takes its prominent role as a leader in civil rights, not just in Texas, but throughout the South and the country. Well, there's a coach at Texas Western at the time named Don Haskins, who was born in Enid, Oklahoma, who played ball for Henry Iba at Oklahoma A&M in Stillwater. Goes Stillwater. He then goes on to coach high school ball in the Panhandle, in Dumas and a couple of other small cities, takes a pay cut to coach college ball in El Paso, Texas, comes after that desegregation ordinance is passed, and is now able to offer Black athletes not only enrollment and admission, but treatment with dignity and respect in our community. And in 1966, he makes it all the way to the championship game of the Final Four against Adolph Rupp's Kentucky Wildcats. Pat Riley happened to be on that team in 66. The all-white Kentucky Wildcats against the all-African American, the first all-Black starting five in NCAA championship game. And the underdog Cinderella Texas Western Miners win that game. And that's because of Dr. Lawrence Nixon. That's because of Thelma White. That's because of LBJ. That's because of John Lewis. That's because of everyone who fought that hard, tough, decades-long fight to make sure that ultimately we could come through. Well, that's exactly where we are today, right now. After Shelby versus Holder, the 2013 decision that gutted that Voting Rights Act from 1965, you see the kind of suppression that I'm talking about in Texas, the gerrymandering that we see right here in Oklahoma, the abysmal turnout levels that we see in both of our states. Don't you think that if people turned out in record numbers in Oklahoma, the minimum wage would no longer be $7.25 an hour? Don't you think we get behind these unions to make sure that workers are treated with the respect and dignity that they deserve? And we provide opportunities for training and education inside and outside of colleges? Don't you think we would be treating our teachers and public school educators with the respect that they have earned and deserve? Don't you think every woman in this state would make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, her own health care? That is our fight right now. And look, we do not want a seat at the table. We do not want parity. We want to win in the biggest way, because the folks that we are running against right now, the members of the legislature and the majority, these minority members are contending against, it's not a matter of policy differences or personalities. These are folks, by and large, on the other side who no longer believe in this exceptional, extraordinary American experiment of democracy. They are solely focused on power, and they understand this: no victory, no matter how hard won, is ever going to be final. We made that mistake after the 1965 Voting Rights Act. We made that mistake after 1973's Supreme Court decision, Roe versus Wade, and we'll make that mistake again unless we keep up this fight for as long as we draw a breath. The other side understands that, and will do everything they can within their power to stay in power and to grow their power. So we must do the same on our side, working within this democracy, lifting and elevating the voices and the votes of those around us. Think about this. If we need some further inspiration right now, I'll conclude with this story about these extraordinary people that I've had the chance to get to know. As Governor Walters said, I was in Uvalde in the wake of that terrible shooting, that slaughter in that community. And I was there for the governor's press conference, where the first thing out of his mouth was, "It could have been worse." I was there for the blaming of mental health and everything and anything about except what caused that terrible pain for those families. But as I've gotten to know those families, I have been moved by their courage, their struggle, their service, and their commitment to all of us. Because in the year since May 24th, 2022, those parents have stood vigil outside of the Uvalde Independent School District headquarters to ensure that that school board held those who were responsible for protecting those kids accountable, and they got that accountability. They've been at the state legislature almost every day that it was in session until the end of this last month, fighting for not the most radical proposals, common sense ideas like raising the age of purchase for an AR-15 from 18 to 21. That killer in Uvalde, 18 years old. Didn't get that gun when he was 16, didn't get it when he was 17, waited till his 18th birthday, went in, bought not one, but two AR-15s, weapons designed originally for use in combat, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Those parents who are Republicans and Democrats and non-voters alike just want us to do the right thing. They brought that bill before a committee. Remember, Texas is run by Republicans. And so to get that out of committee, they needed Republican votes. Their personal stories, their testimony, their courage so moved these Republicans that they voted to pass it out of committee. And I read their statements afterwards, and they had to say all this stuff that you'll understand as politicians. They said, look, we're not into Biden's attack on the Second Amendment, and we don't want to see anything that diminishes anybody's right to buy any kind of weapon that they want to. However, we listened to these families. We were moved by their stories. And if raising the age is going to make some difference, save some lives, well, by God, it will be worth it. Passed out of that committee, it was later killed in the dark of night by the Republican leadership, so it never saw the light of the House floor, any chance for its passage. But you know what? For those families who I've stayed in touch with, that is progress. And get this, they know full well that nothing they do will ever bring back their kids. The only reason they're out there right now is to save your kids and my kids and the kids who are out there whose lives will be lost unless we take this action right now. And that's it. The antidote to despair is action. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to make us feel better all of the time, but it sure as hell beats waiting for somebody else to come to the rescue, hoping that things will fix themselves of their own accord. When we get out there and knock on doors, when we register people to vote, when we stay in touch with those whom we've registered to vote, we are making a difference, one person, one voter, one election at a time. And think about that scope of history that I just shared with you, 100 years. Think about how long this has been going on. When LBJ signed that Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act in 64 and 65, he said, we have lost the South. And I think he meant Oklahoma included, for a generation. Little did he know that he lost the South for many, many generations by doing the right thing. You and I tonight, and every single day going forward, are going to get the South back by putting in the work and meeting despair with action. You all with me? All right. Well, I am always with you. Thank you, Oklahoma, for inviting me to join you tonight. Thank you, Chairwoman Andrews. Thank you, Governor. Keep it up, keep the faith, and keep up the fight. Adios.
All I'm asking is for a change at our convention tomorrow. That's just to put it to a vote. That's all I'm asking for. In the spirit of democracy and inclusion. That's all I'm asking.
That happens tomorrow.
I want to put this to a vote tomorrow so we can get more people involved in our community to come to these conventions. I've been working for the Democratic Party for more than 5 years, and this is my first convention.
No, 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 no. What I'm going to say, with regards to this young Democrat's, request is that it is a valid request that will be heard during convention. It absolutely will be heard at convention. I'm not going to let you see now. Have a great one. Calm down. He will be heard tomorrow. Okay. All righty. So now, I want to thank Congressman O'Rourke for those rousing words, for that inspiration. And clearly, it was inspiring because it inspired the youth to make an action, and we will hear his actions. I want to take a moment right now and introduce someone who's been incredibly helpful to me since I've been involved in the Oklahoma Democratic Party, who, when I first took over the Oklahoma Democratic Party and we were facing an insane amount of debt and I wasn't sure what to do, I called my buddy Mike Whalen. He helped me put together my first 5 fundraisers to help us get to a place where we could even think about running the party. So if everybody would welcome Michael Whalen to the stage.
Good evening, Democrats. Good evening, Democrats. As I was listening to Beto speak, it dawned upon me that so much of what we do is generational. I recently bought my daughter her first skateboard, and someday I'm going to show her the video of Beto O'Rourke skateboarding leading up to the presidential campaign and say, skateboarding and politics, like they're both cool, right? But everything we do here is for the next generation. Which is why I'm here to ask all of you to give to your Democratic Party. I know you bought tables here tonight. I know that you bought tickets here tonight. But some of you were asked to sit at the table, and you're like, sure, free dinner, I'll take it. No, it's not free. I'm asking you to invest in the work that we're doing to make this state better. And the revolution isn't free. Staff has to be paid. Everything you see on that table has to be paid for. And Beto can attest, sometimes you invest all of that money and you don't see the results immediately. But I promise you, that $80 million that was spent in Texas was the foundation and the first bricks laid in turning Texas into a blue state. Is it a blue state today? No, it's not. But when it becomes a blue state, you know who you'll have to thank? Beto O'Rourke. And you can thank every donor to his campaigns that trained young people to work in politics, that built a structure of volunteers that future governors of the state of Texas will rely on. The campaign consultants that will get those future governors and senators elected will have Beto O'Rourke. And frankly, I hope that you're the future governor or senator there as well. But I'm asking all of you, on your tables are contribution envelopes. If you can. No, not if you can. If you contribute a nickel, That's enough. It's putting your skin in the game. $5, $10, $100. No more than $300 now. I mean, try not to give more than $3,300. But oh no, we're talking about the party, not candidates. 10,000. If it's more than 10,000, like we'll have to talk after. But something to invest in your party, because the party gets better when it's funded. As a former chairman of the Tulsa County Democratic Party, I can promise you that the party is better when it's funded. So people will be walking around to pick up contributions. Use your envelope. You're like, who writes checks anymore? Cool. In the middle of your table, there's a QR code that you can scan. You go to okdemocrats.org and give there. But ladies and gentlemen, we have so much work to do. And the work that we have to do has to be paid for. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. And I look forward to working with all of you to get more representatives like John Waldron and Monroe Nichols and Amanda Swope and Senator Joanna Gossett. The more we invest in our party, the more elected officials we can send to Oklahoma City to make this state better. Thank you guys so much. Yes. Name the organization. Name the organization. Oklahomans for Democracy has a deal. They'll write $1,000 check if one person will match it. If one person in this room will write a $1,000 check tonight, Oklahomans for Democracy will match it. Do I have someone out there who is willing to contribute $1,000 to their Democratic Party? Jim Frazier. Thank you, Jim. And I look forward to the work that we will do to make this state better for Sally Frazier's grandchildren. Thank you, guys.
All righty, so tonight is the Carl Albert Awards Gala. And so it's time for us to get into the awards. We're gonna do these kind of quickly. Everybody's so much taller than me. We're gonna do these kind of quickly, but I do want to give everyone their just award. So the first award that we're gonna give out this evening is the George Nye New Leader Award. Our first recipient this evening, you guys all heard of him, is Joshua Harris Hill. Joshua Harris Hill is an accomplished political consultant with an impressive decade. Start working your way this way, Mr. Harris Hill. Start working your way this way. He's an accomplished political consultant with an impressive decade-long career in the political arena. At 33 years of age, he brings a wealth of experience and expertise to his work. In 2022, Joshua emerged as the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's 5th congressional district, showcasing his ability to connect with constituents and advocate for their needs effectively. Notably, he made history as the first Black man ever elected president of the Young Democrats of America. This achievement is a testament to his leadership skills and commitment to amplifying the voices of young people in politics. Joshua's political journey began as an intern in Congressman Dan Bourne's office. Throughout his career, he has worked tirelessly at every level of government, from municipal to federal, and has been elected to serve on the State Central Committee and Executive Committee of the DNC as a National Party officer, which is a significant social movement, both statewide and locally. Okay, that makes sense. And then also he's received the National Hill Legacy Foundation Award. Congratulations, Joshua Harris Hill.
I ain't know that it's gonna give me the mic. 1 minute. I'm just kidding. I won't take too long. The only thing I want to say is to all of the young Democrats in the room and the former young Democrats in the room, it is important that you be involved. It is important that you be involved because the greatest voter suppression that they ever did was convincing young people that their vote didn't matter. Because if you convince young people their vote didn't matter, then it doesn't matter how long the lines is. It doesn't matter how difficult the voting process is. It doesn't matter what restrictions they have, because if they convince young people to stay home, we as the Democratic Party lose. And so when you leave here tonight, if I can tell you anything, it's tell a young person that their vote matters, their voice matters, their presence matters. And if they're not in rooms like this, then they're not doing the work that needs to be done to get this country moving in the right direction. I dedicate this to all of the young Democrats of Oklahoma, past and present. This is not about me, this is about us. Thank you.
Our next George Niner George Nine New Leaders Award goes to Emily Gamble. Emily Gamble is the secretary of the Oklahoma Congressional District 1. Before that, she was the secretary of the Tulsa County Democratic Party for 2 terms while working full-time as a data entry coordinator for Air Gas and Air Liquide Company. In addition to being Tulsa County Secretary, Emily has been a precinct inspector in Tulsa County elections since 2016. Originally from Southwest Iowa, Emily has chosen Tulsa as her home for the last 10 years. Emily's passions include vote education, event planning, volunteer recruitment, and legislative outreach. As an impassioned voter registration advocate, she serves on the Voter Services Communications Committee of the League of Women Voters Metro Tulsa, and has served as membership chair on the leadership team for Together Oklahoma's Tulsa chapter. Congratulations.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben. I actually didn't know we were saying anything either, but I would like to actually, everyone in the room who made Oklahoma their home, and for me, it was Tulsa. And the Democratic Party is actually where I grew here for the 2 years I've been here. And I thank you. I think maybe, I think maybe I need to tell everyone that George and I New Leader Awards isn't just about you. It's about people who've just come into our party, have grabbed it by the horns, and are taking leadership roles. And so I want to thank the two who've been acknowledged the next. Kit Waters. Kit Waters' parents, Richard Waters and Karen Thomas, are from Stillwell, Oklahoma. However, Kit was born in Plano, Texas, and raised in St. Louis area of Missouri. She attended school at the University of Arkansas Fayetteville and graduated with a dual major in political science and journalism in 2001. She earned an MBA at Linwood University in 2003. Kit married in 2004 to her college boyfriend, Chuck Ulrey, and relocated to Miami, Oklahoma, so that she could work for the Ottawa tribe. Their son, Berkeley, was born in 2008. Kit stayed home with him and continued to homeschool until 2021. Because of the opportunity to homeschool, Kit was involved in the Northeast Soccer Association board for 3 years as concession manager and registrar. She taught 3 classes at their homeschool co-op, volunteered with the lead agency, and served on the Miami Public Library Board, and helped Debbie Langford with the Ottawa County Democrats. Kit Waters can be summed up by saying she is a mom. She learned to strengthen her voice when talking to neighbors and local and national leaders because she wanted a better future for her son and her friends. Moms get things done. Moms care for others. Moms lift others up. Kit Waters.
I didn't expect to speak, but there's so many people that helped me. I thought that really I'm old. I mean, I'm old. And I kind of thought after I homeschooled that I was going to struggle in finding my place and serving the community and doing stuff. And my son Berkeley is, I think most of you guys know who he is more than you know who I am. He is the one who dragged me to the Capitol, and we were there for an advocacy day. He just left us, left Rebecca, Jim, and me, and he went to knock doors and go talk to Governor Stitt and tell him that we need to protect our water. And Representative Waldron was on his way out, and Berkeley came in and he said, I always have time for students. Talk to me. And so many people, because Berkeley used his voice, Berkeley pulled me out. That's why I'm here. I think a lot of people think it's the other way around, but it's not. So thank you for the award. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you.
Our next award is the Bob Lemon Humanitarian Award. This honors individuals who have demonstrated outstanding contributions to our community while addressing social justice and human rights. Honorees have contributed significantly to improving the quality of life for all Oklahomans, demonstrating community leadership and a commitment to humanity and selflessness without regard for personal gain or profit. Bob Lemon dedicated his life and career as a community activist, promoting equality and confronting bigotry and discrimination in all forms, particularly sexual orientation. Bob believed that all individuals deserve equal rights and legal protection as a basic human right. This year, the award is posthumously awarded to Sally Frazier. Sally was a proud feminist and political liberal, and was for years one of Tulsa County's most prominent Democrats and party voices. She chaired the First District Democratic Committee for several years and was a delegate to several presidential nominating conventions. A special highlight for Sally was her party service, was serving as an elector in the historic election of President Barack Obama and attending his inauguration in Washington, D.C. Sally was a recipient of a Pinnacle Award from the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women, and in 1996 was named to the American Library Association 50th Anniversary Honor Roll, representing the state of Oklahoma. Accepting the award on her behalf is her son, Frank Reagan.
Everyone, thank you. My name is Frank Frazier. I am Sally Frazier's firstborn, and by her first marriage, as she used to say. Congressman, your words were inspiring. And I think a word that my mother at least taught her grandkids and me and my sibling about, the word was consensus. And I think, Dr. King also said that a genuine leader is not one who searches for consensus, but one who molds consensus. And that's what my mom tried to do. That was her legacy to everyone here. thank you all very much. We're honored by this award and look forward, the Frasers look forward to continuing to serve the party. Thank you.
Our next award is the Opioid Award, which is traditionally given to elected officials. And this evening's honoree is Reverend Dr. Senator George Young. Let me tell you about him. Let me tell you about him. The Reverend Dr. George E. Young Sr. was born in Memphis, Tennessee. He retired from 30 years of pastoral service in 2013. Dr. Young was elected to the Oklahoma State House of Representatives in 2014. While serving was elected as the Democratic Caucus Vice Chair and served as the Oklahoma Legislative Black Caucus Chair. As of November 6, 2018, he was elected to the Oklahoma State Senate and will continue serving as chair of the Oklahoma Legislative Black Caucus. And Dr. Young is the author of Christology, a look at practical Christianity. Dr. Young is a graduate of the Oklahoma Asian Leadership Advocacy Academy, class of 1999. That's in charter class. He is an alumnus of Leadership Oklahoma City, class of 20, completed 2 years as co-chair of class of 19 and class of 30, and alumnus of Leadership Oklahoma, where he was awarded the Golden Bull for the award for most socially provocative. He received the Good Citizen Award, the Social Justice Award from the Oklahoma Conference of Churches, where he served as president. While serving in the Oklahoma legislature, Dr. Young is telling me to stop because he wants my talking time. Ladies and gentlemen, clap again.
Thank you. Good evening, Oklahoma Democrats. What an honor and a pleasure it is to be here before you. I stand saying thank you to each and every one of you for this great honor. I want to bring into remembrance my late mother, Louise Young, and James Young, my father, and then to my 2 children and 3 grandchildren, and then my late wife, the Reverend Dr. Thelma Chambers Young. It has been my honor to be a part of the Oklahoma Democrats and to do the work that we do. And there is a verse, I am a preacher. So Beto, I am a preacher. Can't help that. Philippians 3rd chapter, verses 14 and 15 simply says, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, I press on to the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Well, the one interpreter translated that, and I've taken it as my mantra. That interpreter simply said, I have not yet caught that which I've been called to catch.
Do want to take just a moment, the personal privilege to recognize the legislator who's came into the room. He's evidently doing really well because that's a much nicer suit than Representative Jason Lowe ever wore when I served with him in the House. Good to see you, Representative. I'm glad you're here. Now on to our Carl Albert Award recipients for Lifetime Achievement Award. The Carl Albert Awards are from the Oklahoma Democratic Party. The award is named for the 46th Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Carl Albert. The Carl Albert Award is given to honor lifetime achievement in Oklahoma Democratic Party politics and is considered to be the Oklahoma Democratic Party's highest honor. The inaugural award was given in 1995. Carl Albert was born in McAllister and later moved to Buck Tussle, representing the southeastern portion of Oklahoma. And what I'm not going to read off the rest of this, but I think the most important thing about Carl Albert is Carl Albert was a heartbeat away from the presidency and could have been president of the United States, but he placed the country before party and chose to be an American rather than to be president. And I think that is the most powerful thing that anyone can say about Carl Albert. This year's award recipient is Janet Lewis Hawkins. Janet Lewis Harkins has worked tirelessly for over 40 years, advocating for various civil, political, and educational endeavors. She is a wife, mother, and grandmother, and believes that spending time laughing and sharing with her family is life's greatest lesson. She and her husband Clarence have 2 adult children, 10 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren. Ms. Harkins first became actively involved in the Oklahoma Democratic Party as a rural Oklahoma teen with her family in Ada, Upshot County. As a young woman, her volunteerism with the Oklahoma County Democratic Party was rekindled, and she became more active with her labor union, Communication Workers of America, Local 6016. With the encouragement of the Oklahoma City School Board of Education member Freddie Williams, Janet joined the Georgia Brown Federation of Democratic Women's Club in 1977. She is still an active member of Georgia Brown and is located in CD5 and primarily works to engage, educate, and empower voters in Northeast Oklahoma City. Ms. Harkins recently completed 2 terms as the state president of the Oklahoma Federation of Democratic Women's Clubs. She has previously served as treasurer for both the Oklahoma Democratic Party and the Federation of Democratic Women. She was inducted to the Oklahoma Federation of Democratic Women's Hall of Fame in 2013.
This is lovely. Thank you all so much. First of all, thank you to my Georgia Brown sisters that I know that are here today, and to the members of the Oklahoma Federation of Democratic Women who have inspired me, taught me, learned from me sometimes, and who carry on the work that is so necessary to sustain the Oklahoma Democratic Party. Next, I would like to recognize, I don't know who nominated me for this particular award. I am very appreciative of that. But I would like to also say that, there are so many sitting out here today that are deserving of this award. People who do the grassroots work, people who power the party through financial contributions, some of them who do both, who are deserving of this award. But for lack of someone taking the time to write a nomination, they are not being recognized. So I would like to challenge you to look within your ranks, in your counties, in your federations, for people who are just as deserving of this award as I am. Next, I would like to recognize my family and friends who have joined me here today. My dear, dear friends, Ellen, oh, there she is. Eleanor Thompson, her husband, Payne Thompson, who's been a friend of mine since we were teenagers, and their wonderful daughter, Rebecca, my friend and mentee, Lynn Sasser, my road dog and first cousin, Angela Benson, and last but certainly not least, my son, Smithy Dwayne Morris, and his lovely wife, Amber. Some of you have heard me tell the story about how I was re-energized in the party when I was visiting the second best city I know in the world, Kansas City, in 1974. And Kansas City was a buzz because the Democratic Party was in town talking about affirmative action. I was inspired. The main reason that I was inspired, though, is because I felt like I was pretty sure that when I got home, my 5-year-old son, Dwayne, would quiz me about what the Democrats were doing in Kansas City. Because every day in 1973, when I came home from work, he filled me in on what was happening with Watergate. And he was so inspired at 4 years old by Barbara Jordan that every night he filled our evenings with talk of the Democrats and Barbara Jordan. The next year, he was we grew up in a labor union family. He was raised in a labor union family. And when Karen Silkwood mysteriously died, he was deeply moved. And I tell you, Lauren, train up a child in the way they should go, and they will not depart from it. That's how we build a Democratic Party. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get through this. We've already heard her name once tonight. But I made sure that Sally Frazier was nominated twice. Because one wasn't enough. And so there was enough to say about Sally that we have two bios, and so I'm gonna read the second one. She's reading receiving the Carl Albert Award, which is the Lifetime Achievement Award. Sally. Sally Frazier was a proud feminist and political liberal. She was for years one of Tulsa County's most prominent Democrats and party voices. She's fair. I don't want to read some of the same things. A special highlight for Sally Frazier of her party service was serving as an elector in the historic election of President Barack Obama. Then attending the inauguration in Washington, D.C. Sally was the recipient of the Pinnacle Award from the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women in 1996, and she was named the American Library Association 50th Anniversary Honor Roll and representing the state of Oklahoma at the NSU Centurion. And Sally Frazier was one of the first Democrats to be nice to me. And making sure that I understood where two or more Democrats gather, it's a fundraiser. So I say that, one, in honor of Sally, and two, because I have to do my job and remind you guys that we're about to close up the silent auction in the back of the room. So if you're interested, now's the time to make your last bids. More importantly, I want to welcome Jim and Molly Frazier to honor their mother and wife.
I learned a long time ago, excuse me, at these Democrat functions, make it brief. And I'll do that. I want you to know that you were the beneficiaries of Sally's favorite son, Frank. I now want you to hear what my wife's favorite daughter has to say.
there's, I'm gonna give up the microphone because I get maudlin. But years ago, at a Democrat meeting, DNC meeting, I believe, we were fortunate enough to meet a man named Joe Andrew, chairman of the Indiana Democratic Party. The words he said at that meeting, you're going to hear tonight, those were Sally's favorite words at most any meeting she attended. Molly, if you will. Sure.
Everyone is welcome in the Democrat Party. We welcome you here tonight because everyone is welcome. We don't care if you're black or white or brown or a shade of purple. You are welcome in the Democrat Party. We don't care if you pray in a church or a synagogue or a temple or a mosque or before your math test. You are welcome in the Democrat Party. We don't care if you walked in or rolled in. You are welcome in the Democrat Party. We don't care if you're male or female or they, them. You are welcome in the Democrat Party. We don't care who you hold hands with. As long as you hold hands, you're welcome in the Democrat Party. That is my Democrat Party. That is your Democrat Party. That was my mom's Democrat Party, where everyone is welcome.
Going to go slightly out of order. Our next Carl Albert Award recipient is Demetrius Variolis. He has been a Democratic Party activist for more than 50 years, walking precincts, helping candidates organize and raise campaign funds, serving as a precinct officer, and providing the credentials for county, congressional district, and state party conventions. He has served on the CD1 Central Committee and State Central Committee. Demetrius was a Democratic elector in '88 and in 2020, and has served as a poll worker inspector since 2016. Parts of the state party constitution and bylaws dealing with organizing and recognizing state Democratic federations, clubs, voting rules, and selection of the state convention site have been improved by amendments he has written and worked to pass. Demetrius has served on boards of directors for state organizations to promote the Democratic Party principles and values, civil rights, ACLU Oklahoma, Freedom of Information Oklahoma, abortion rights, NARAL, and government reform, Common Cause Oklahoma. He has helped educate students of all ages about government and politics by having taught political science at Tulsa Community College for 35 years. Demetrius Variolis.
Thank you. I want to be really brief. I kind of, when I looked at the award winners, I told my beautiful wife and life partner and avid Democrat that I kind of feel like the schlepper in this group because it's hard to follow Sally Frazier and George Crumey and Jen Harkins. But what this award for me means is that there's an opportunity for everyone to do the work that's necessary for us to elect candidates and make our party great. It doesn't hurt that you get a chance to teach political science every now and then. And it didn't certainly hurt that you get a chance to sit on Central Committee with many of the people that were on the stage tonight. And it also helps that you're inspired by a lot of the people who got introduced tonight, who are great Democrats. And inspire us to be great Democrats ourselves. So brevity is important tonight. So thank you very much for this award. And that's it.
Our final award this evening for Mr. George Brumey. George Brumey was born and raised in rural Oklahoma near Okina. His early childhood education took place in a rural school. He finished high school at the age of 16 in Bristow and attended Oklahoma A&M as a music major. Mr. Crumey left A&M to study weather forecasting at Spartan School of Aeronautics and then taught aviation cadets in Texas. Crumey enlisted in the Army Air Corps and received training in mathematics and physics at Pomona College in Claremont, California. Reassignment to the infantry led him to Europe during the Battle of the Bulge, and he was awarded the Purple Heart. And Mr. Crumey wouldn't tell you this, but he was an absolute hero, recognized and awarded in World War II. After the war, Mr. Crumey returned to Sonoma to earn a bachelor's degree and was named Phi Beta Kappa. Post-graduation, he returned to Bristow, joined his family as partner in Crumey Oil Company, and then moved to Tulsa in 1960, where he studied on nights and weekends at the University of Tulsa to earn his master's degree in petroleum engineering and PhD in earth science. Mr. Crumey has been active in Democratic politics for over half a century and has served as a national committeeman from 1976 to 1996, and was the first check I received when I ran for the state legislature.
As many of you, and he may have mentioned it, I happen to have passed the century mark, and therefore I doubt if there's anyone here who participated in the first Democratic convention, shall we say, as I have. As I remember, I was 1958, which is 65 years ago, when I went to the Creek County District Convention, County and District Convention. And as he remarked, we moved to Tulsa in 1960, and soon I was active in Tulsa County and Tulsa City. No, not so much city, I take that back. Activities, and have been happy to be associated with the Democratic Party ever since that time, and active for a long, long time, as you know. And one reason that I'm happy to have done so is simply because the Democratic Party stands for the things that I think are the best for the average citizen, and particularly the disadvantaged who need the help most. I'm therefore very proud to have been a Democrat for all those decades. Thank you much.
So if you would please give all of our award winners another round of applause. So I'm supposed to be announcing the silent auction award winners, but they haven't given that to me. So I am going to take a moment and acknowledge our sponsors. I want to say a big thank you to our gold sponsors, Keith McPorter and Melanie Hamilton. Oklahoma United, Kaylin Free and David Walters, and the Creek County Democrats. Our silver sponsors, Lori Kane, Robin Burris, the Oklahoma County Dems, Edmond Democratic Women, Crystal Sayre, Jen Frazier, Shakira Smith, the Veterans Federation, and the Washington County Dems. Without the sponsors and each of you buying tickets, there's no way we could do this. And so I just want to give you all a heartfelt thank you. Thank you. So this concludes our evening. But you haven't given me anything, sir. So we can do that tomorrow. Or you have something for me? I'm not trying to keep people too late. You have winners? No. I'm gonna make another ask. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. So here's the thing. I've already said that I'm grateful that so many people are here to celebrate it with us this evening. I'm grateful that so many people came out on our first Carl Albert award ceremony that we've had since pre-COVID. But Sarah likes the stage. Me? And so Sarah would like to say a little something to you, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Baker from Plus One Strategies. So thank you, Chairwoman Alicia Andrews, for everything that you have done this evening. And I want to thank everybody here that is still in this room for staying until the bitter end of the evening. If you have bid on silent auction items, do not leave this room until those announcements have been made. I want to say an even bigger thank you to everybody that is going to be here tomorrow for the long day that will ensue. That is the important, the absolutely necessary business of this party and of the future of this state. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody that is going to be here tomorrow. Thank you to Congressperson Beto O'Rourke for his inspiring words. But most of all, as a former executive director of the state party, I want to give a very large round of applause, and I would love to see a standing ovation for the staff and the volunteers who have put in so much work to ensure that we have a state party convention and that it goes off as best as it can. And thank you so much to Scott and the entire state party staff for everything that you do every single day for this state. So, I am up here for a reason. Earlier, as you are well aware, because all of you were in this room, well, most of you, like 95% of you were in this room when we did this earlier, we made an ask. And the ask was, take the envelopes on your table and put something in them. Well, I was one of those people that walked around the room and picked up those envelopes. And I'm going to tell you right now, less than a third of the people at the tables gave envelopes. I'm going to call on some audience participation here. Representative Jared Zach, where are you? Oh, he left the room. Representative Jared Zach, very loudly, could you tell me how much on average it costs to win a state house seat in the state of Oklahoma? $100,000. Senator Joanna Dossett, Are you still in the room? How much does it take to win a state Senate seat in this state? $270,000. Congressperson Beto O'Rourke, how much do you think that it takes to win a congressional seat in a state like Oklahoma? $2 million. That is what we are up against. That is the reality that we face in this state every single day. We are doing the work on the ground. But I'm going to tell you right now, we cannot do that work without the funds to do it. And it requires that everybody in this room be prepared to buy in to the cause, to our candidates, and to our state party. And let's be honest, this is a fundraiser. This is a fundraising event. It is to raise money to make sure that we have a healthy state party and that we can successfully combat the four-letter word that is coming down from the Republican-led legislature in this state that is fighting to undermine our basic human rights every single day. So this is my challenge to you. With that knowledge, if you want to make this state purple, who wants to make this state purple? Who wants to make this state blue? Is making this state blue worth a cup of coffee to you? Is making this state blue worth a night out at Chili's to you? Is making this state blue worth a steak dinner at home to you? If it is, then I want you to pick up that envelope that is left on your table and I want you to raise it up right now. Raise up your envelopes. If you do not have an envelope, there are volunteers around this room that are more than happy to bring you a new envelope. If that is worth it to you, then I expect to see every single person in this room give at least $5, $10, $15, $25, because we have said it once, if we have said it a million times, every dollar counts. In every election, for every state party, for every race, for every candidate, it counts. So raise those envelopes up, put $5 in. If you don't have cash and you don't have a check, lucky for you, there is not just a QR code on the table, but there is a place to put your credit card information on that envelope. There is absolutely no excuse for you not to give $5 tonight. No excuse whatsoever. So, I make one further ask. We are all going to leave here tonight and we are all going to leave here tomorrow, and we hopefully are going to feel inspired to go out and do the work that requires us to get more Democrats elected. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Representative Waldron, do you want more Democrats in office? Do you want more Democrats fighting with you for education, for women's rights, against book banning? All right. So, not only is it about tonight and that $5, $10, $15, $25 that you give tonight, but I'm going to ask for one more audience participation here. If you're a county officer, I want you to stand up. These people have stood up and said that we are tired of the status quo in this state. Your county parties need your support too. So I challenge you to make not only a monthly commitment to the state party, but a monthly commitment to your county parties and a monthly commitment to your congressional district parties. I don't care if that is $10 a month for each of them, that is $30. That is $30 a month. It's making Oklahoma a blue state worth $30 to you. So, as people work the room, I hope that you will give as much as you are able. We raise $5,284 in the first round. Let's blow that out of the water. Thank you. I'm going to hand it back over to you.
The first one.
I count myself blessed that I have so many people who are willing to support and do the things that we need to do to support this party. Thank you, Sarah Baker. So, as I was saying, we are about to adjourn. I want to take another moment to thank our wonderful speaker, Congressman Beto O'Rourke. I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank the folks who turned in their envelope the first time, the second time, the folks who are signing up for recurring donations. Thank you very much. Do we have the information about the site? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And for those of you who are delegates, I hope that you are there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We're going to be right back in this room. Credentials opens at 9. I hope that you're there, ready to do the work. It is my goal to get us all out while it's light outside. That is the goal, but we are going to do the work. So tonight, there is a hospitality suite for the Veterans Federation at the Doubletree, room 1736. There's a hospitality suite for Tulsa County at the Doubletree, room 1836. And then Young Dems is having their speaker ball next door at the A-Loft in the basement. So the night doesn't end here. I hope that you guys continue with the festivities, but not for like tomorrow. All righty, thank you all. Thank you all. Have a great night. I saw you playing there. Yeah. Yeah, but I said, oh, I heard you like to make it. I'm like, yeah, no. That color looks great on you.
All right, we've heard from the convention speakers this evening. I want to thank everybody for coming on to Coffee with Democrats and listening in. Appreciate all the participation. We had over 2,000 views tonight, so this has been an awesome opportunity for us to have this conversation. And we look forward to having more conversations like this in the future. So everyone who's remaining, thank you for staying with us on this, and we're looking forward to doing more Coffee with Democrats in the near future. Until we meet again next Thursday, everybody please be safe. Have a good night.